Welcome to Power of Story podcast. We share personal testimonies that reveal life's ups and downs, from victories to lessons learned. Join us for stories that connect, inspire, and change how we see the world. Don't miss out on this journey of discovery and connection. Welcome to Power of Story with your host, Noelia Orantes. I have Kevin Palmieri here with me, and he's going to share his journey to success. Kevin's journey is both compelling and motivating. He has transformed his life from overcoming depression and suicidal thoughts to building a multi-six-figure business. His passion for self-improvement and entrepreneurship drives him to make a positive impact on as many people as possible through his podcasting and speaking engagement. He loves to share lessons that he has learned along the way, along with any tips, strategies to elevate love, life, health, and wealth. Welcome to Power of Story, my friend. How are you doing today?
I am doing very well, Noelia. I appreciate you having me. I appreciate the wonderful intro. Hopefully we can live up to the reputation.
You better, Kevin, you better. Well, starting right off the bat, I don't want to start on a downside, kind of thing, but it's interesting that you overcame depression and suicide thoughts, and it's something that is, I hate to say this, that it's something that in our society today we hear about it all the time, and we see about it. How did you overcome that? How did you overcome those thoughts?
Yeah, so it's very interesting because what I tell people is when I left my job to start this journey, my depression pretty much went away completely. I understand not everybody has that opportunity, not everybody has that privilege, and the circumstance is going to dictate whether or not that's an opportunity or a decision for you. But I think the reason I got to such a dark place is because I assumed that if I got a good job and I made a lot of money, all of the internal stuff that I was pushing down would eventually go away. And I ended up getting a good job, and then I ended up making really good money. And at one point, if you looked at me from the outside looking in, I had the body of my dreams. I was competing in a bodybuilding show, so I was quite literally in the best shape I will ever be in. My girlfriend at the time was a model. I had a sports car. I had a new apartment. I had great friends. But I was miserable. You never would have known it. So eventually, I hit a six-figure goal of making six figures, assuming that would fix all of my problems, and it didn't. And then I had to continue going to a job that I started to hate. My job required a ton of travel, so I was spending weeks, months on the road at a time. And it just wore on me and wore on me and wore on me. So by the time I got to the rock bottom basement moment of having suicidal ideation, my job was really the thing that was creating most of the mental health issues for me. And once that went away, I got more anxious for sure, and I'm happy to talk about that, being an entrepreneur. But my depression went away pretty much because I got a lot of the things that I valued back. I traded in all of my certainty, all of my time freedom, to go try to make as much money as possible. And I think that was one of the reasons I was as miserable as I was at the time.
Oh, wow. So what was it? Like, obviously you weren't happy, but was there a moment that you're like, okay, I got to change? And letting go of making good money to start your own thing, it's got to be super scary.
Yeah, I woke up in a hotel room. I was traveling for work that week. I was like 6 hours away from where I lived. My alarm clock went off. I sat up. I slid to the edge of the bed. I was lacing up my work boots. And it was like there was 10 televisions on in my head at the same time. And every single one was on a different station. And one was saying, you're stuck here forever. One was saying, if you ever did leave, what would your friends think? What would your family think? Because I made more money than anybody that I knew. I was successful, quote unquote. This is what I thought was going to fix my problems. Yeah. And the loudest thing that I heard was, do you really think you're going to be a podcaster? And that's what we're going to do. That's our plan B. That seems like it's kind of a risk. So it was that moment where I started to have these thoughts of, well, if I wasn't here, if I just took my life, I would take my problems with me. that right there is when I knew I needed some sort of change. I just didn't know what it was. So I reached out to one of my friends, and he's now my business partner and the co-host of our podcast. So it ended up working out really, really well. That's when I knew. When I started questioning whether or not I wanted to be here,
Yeah.
I knew there was something obviously going on
Wrong.
internally. And I think that one of the reasons I'm so big on self-awareness and self-improvement is because I was just unaware of why I was feeling the way I was feeling. I had never really worked on Kevin. I'd
Mhm.
worked on my bank account, I'd worked on my body. I'd never worked on me internally, and I didn't understand me internally. So it was that moment where I realized something has to change.
Yeah.
Who do I feel like I can trust, that I can reach out to, that might have some advice for me? Okay, cool, let me do that. And then I ended up leaving my job 3 or 4 months later. And that felt like massive progress towards a better life. So I was off to the races after that.
That's good. Wow. And so obviously you started a podcast. That's a big leap.
Mm.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
What inspired you to start the next level? Like, I mean, that's the podcast name, but what was the inspiration? Obviously, you wanted to get out of that circle that wasn't getting you anywhere.
Yeah.
But what was the motivation behind it? Obviously to help you, but there's always a different motivation behind it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was my business partner and I had very similar life experiences where we had both been very financially successful, but we traded in our mental health, our physical health, our emotional health, relationships, fitness. We found ourselves trading in one of the other important pillars to life to accomplish one specific one.
Yeah.
And that really became a pain point for us. Yeah, I mean, when I say I was in the best shape of my life, you could see every vein in my legs, you could see every ab. I was in very, very good shape, but my mental health was terrible.
So when they say money doesn't buy happiness, absolutely right.
So this is my new take.
Here we go. Here we go. Please.
Money is not going to buy internal fulfillment.
Okay.
Money can buy opportunities for short-term bouts of happiness, but it's not the whole game.
Mhm.
If you came to me and you said, I can't pay my bills, if you said, I'm super fulfilled, I love myself, I'm confident, my self-worth is accurate, my relationships are amazing, I just can't pay my bills, money's going to help you a lot.
I agree. I
Right?
agree. Yes. Yes.
But if somebody is out there saying, well, I'm not confident and I don't have any self-worth and I don't have any level of self-trust and I'm super insecure, I just need a lot of money. No. Money is not going to fix that stuff. If anything, it might make it worse because your expectation that it's going to fix it is going to trigger you when it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I do agree, though, now more than ever, it's not the whole game. It's a piece of it.
Not the whole game. Yeah.
But it's definitely not the whole game.
Now, starting something new, leaving the old behind. Can you tell me some of, like, did you face any failures?
Yeah, every day. every single day for the last 7 years.
Come on,
I failed.
Kevin. Come on.
I failed at something for sure. In the beginning, it wasn't external stuff in the beginning. In the beginning, it was my fear of not being good enough, not being smart enough, imposter syndrome. I didn't identify as somebody who was an entrepreneur. I didn't identify as somebody who was smart, business savvy, organized. A lot of the stuff in the very beginning was internal stuff. But one of the earliest failures I had, at the time, we were starting to produce other podcasts because we were quote unquote a successful podcast and people were asking me for help. And I had a conversation with this mentor of ours who was a multi-millionaire. And he said, I want you to produce my podcast. And I said, cool, we're in. It's $1,500 a month for what you're looking for. And he said, what if I give you 3 months up front of $1,000 a month? So instead of $1,500 a month, I want to pay $1,000. And I'll also give you a shout out on my podcast. So I'll say this is edited and produced by Kevin and his team. And I said, it's $1,500 or nothing, brother. And he chose nothing. He said, nope, not interested. I was willing to do this, but I'm not willing to do what you're offering. And then he just ghosted me. I have actually never heard from him since. That was a very important lesson for me in the beginning because that money would have changed my life. I mean, $1,000 is a lot of money. $1,000 a month is a lot of money for anybody.
Yeah, yeah.
But at the time, I was very, very broke. That money would have changed my life. And I lost out on that. And I learned a very, very important lesson. But that is one of my biggest failures to date. I mean, I've bombed speaking engagements. I've had terrible podcast episodes. I've probably sent emails to people and had the wrong name. Like I copy pasted the wrong name. That's happened. All of those things. But for every public success you see, there are dozens of private failures behind the scenes that just nobody shows you.
No, for sure. And how do you balance your personal life now with your professional growth?
I just want to preface with we're at a different place than we were a few years ago, so I'm able to prioritize things in a different way than I used to, right?
Yeah.
Now it's scheduling. Everything is scheduled, really. So my day in terms of interviews, coaching calls, being on camera is essentially 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. So I'll do coaching calls, other media, speeches, whatever, from 10 to 6. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day and I go to the gym and then I have a few hours of back office work. After 6, I'm wrapping up, 6 p.m., I'm wrapping up and I'm spending time with my wife. And then Sunday, I don't do anything public facing. So Sunday is date day with my wife. And then usually Saturday is like a half day for me. I usually work until like noon or 1 on Saturday. But during the week, I'm pretty much taken from 6 a.m. until 6 p.m. And then I go to bed at 10. So I have 3 hours with my wife every single night. And then Sundays are our date day. But that's like relatively recent. There are still days where if I need to, I'll work a 18-hour day and I'll work until 10 o'clock at night. That still happens. But now that it's scheduled, it's not like, well, whatever happens. It's let me go sit with my wife and make sure it's okay if I'm unavailable for 3 nights this week based on the fact that we have something coming up. So the calendar is set proactively for health, wealth, and love. And any changes that need to be made are done reactively with a little bit of resistance. That way it's harder to do at this point.
That's good. And how long have it been since you left the old and started the new? How many years have you been doing your podcast?
7. Yeah, I started in 2017.
Wow. All right. So so definitely 7 years by now. You have a rhythm, you have a schedule, and obviously in a better place. Is there any, do you want to share a story of success, like someone that, or through you, that you've done something that got such an impact of changed the life? Because I'm sure you have many, many stories. You want to share one with us?
One of my favorite ones is one of the ones that not only helped someone, but I think it probably helped me, if not as much more than it helped that person. Somebody reached out to me through Snapchat. This was like 2018, I think. And they said, I am going to school, I'm going to college, and I feel like an outcast because there's a bunch of people that I see that are having these really awesome conversations, and I don't know how to start conversations with people. I don't know how to start conversations with strangers. I'm afraid of that. And I said, yeah, same. I feel like most people are. I think that's normal. I said, all right, this is what we're going to do. This person lived close to me. I said, we're going to go to the mall, and I'm going to help you overcome your fear of talking to strangers. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, I don't really know yet, but we're going to go to the mall, and we're going to talk to some people. Is that good enough for you? And she said, yeah. So I met this young lady at the mall, gave her a hug, and said, don't ever do this with anybody else, because this could go horribly wrong in many ways. Imagine if I wasn't who I said I was. So don't do this. But we ended up going into a store. It was a store that sold these giant beanbag chairs. And I said, let's just get some momentum. I just want you to go up to the front desk and I want you to ask them how much the beanbag chairs cost. And she said, no. They're going to judge me. They're not going to want to talk to me. I said, I don't know how many people are buying these chairs. They're probably bored as heck. I haven't seen a single person in this store. So I think we're going to be fine. So she goes and asks them how much the chair costs, and they have a good conversation. So we go to another store to do that. We go to another store to do that. We go to another store. Then we go down to the food court, ask how much that cost, what is it cooked in, how much rice do you get, whatever. I don't care about the questions, I don't care about the answers. Let's practice the behavior. So she does that. Then we're taking the escalator upstairs. She's having conversations with people on the escalators. And eventually we get to the end of the day and we're getting ready to leave the mall. And there's this stand that has these mechanical zoo animals on wheels. I don't know if you've ever seen them at the mall. It's this, I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah.
So she said if we were really brave and we really wanted to face our fears, we would rent those and ride those around the mall.
Okay.
And I was thinking, I have created a monster here. I don't want to do this at all. This is terrible. This is terrible. But we did it. And I have a video of us on my phone of us driving around the mall, literally kind of wanting people to judge us.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very bold thing to do. So after that, she ended up coming on our team and worked on the team for several years. She moved from a small town in Rhode Island to Nashville, Tennessee, and chased her dreams. She went back to school. She didn't think she was smart enough to go back to school, and she ended up getting like a 3.9 GPA. So she really came out of her shell. She came out of her comfort zone, and she grew a ton. But so did I. I grew a lot in that experience because I was afraid to do everything I did that day. But when somebody else is counting on you and you're trying to adopt the identity of somebody who's a leader, that's something you do. So yeah, that's probably my favorite story just because
That's
she ended
great.
up she ended up coming on the team and we worked together closely for several years.
And probably look back at the writing around the mall and laugh.
Yeah. I look at the video often. I show it in
Right?
speeches.
Now, is that something you notice with, people coming to you? Is I'm I have a hard time communicating with people, or I'm afraid to do things. Do you think fear is what's holding people back from achieving their dreams
Yeah.
or goals or whatever it is?
Yeah, I would say it's either fear of failure or fear of success.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, fear of failure is a big one. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not capable enough. I don't belong. But on the opposite end is fear of success. Of every time I grow, and every time I accomplish something noteworthy, all the people around me villainize me and try to tear me down. That's unfortunately a very, very common thing.
Yeah.
I think those are two really big ones. And then I would say another really big reason that many people unfortunately don't accomplish what they want is because when they're setting goals, they set goals that are way too big for their level of confidence. If I set a goal to have 1,800 episodes, I wouldn't have started. That wasn't it. The goal for me was to have cool conversations with cool people. And let's just see what happens. So that's one thing we've noticed is a lot of people fall into the trap of the advice that if your goals do not scare you, they're not big enough. I do not agree with that. I do not subscribe to that message. If you have a level 3 confidence, I think you should set level 4 goals. If you have a level 10 confidence, your goals can scare you, fine. But you're so confident that actually inspires you, where somebody like me, who did not have a lot of belief in the beginning, if I was forced to set a level 10 goal, I probably never would have started. So that's really something we've noticed is a lot of people are setting themselves up for getting stuck based on the fact that they don't want to be embarrassed when they go to someone and say, yeah, my goal is to go to the gym twice this week. Cool. That's a great goal if you've never gone to the gym or you're trying to get back into it. You don't have to say, I'm going to lose 50 pounds this week. That might not work for you. That might not motivate you. It might not inspire you. And if it doesn't seem realistic, you're just not going to do it. So that's another big one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So keep your goals realistically. I like that. I really like that one. What advice would you give someone who is struggling with some of the similar challenges that you had? And what would you tell them to do? Obviously, you've expressed very much what you've done. But for someone who's saying, listen, I'm stuck in this job and I don't even know what I want to do. Like, did you know you wanted to start a podcast when you left your old job?
Yeah.
Did you know what you wanted?
I already had the podcast when I left the job. So I knew
Exactly
that this
what
is the
you wanted.
thing. 100%. Yeah. I think it's a challenging conversation only because you got to try a bunch of stuff. It's really hard when you feel stuck. I think the last thing you want to do is expand.
Mm-hmm.
and pretend you're excited about stuff that maybe you're not. But I think you have to get out there and test out different stuff. The only reason I knew I liked podcasting is because I was interviewed on a YouTube channel, and I said, I love this.
I could do
If
this.
I can do this. Imagine if you could do this for a living. That's what I said.
Yeah.
Imagine if you could do this every day. I would be the most fulfilled person on the planet if I could do this every day. So I fell into it. But you have to have the awareness of what something is if you want to dedicate your life and dedicate your time to it. So I think experimenting is a great way to do it. I think the hardest part for a lot of us is we have that conversation that I had when I said, are you really going to be a podcaster? That's good. You're going to be a full-time professional, make money podcaster. How are you going to do that? I think a lot of us know the direction we want to move in, but we get stuck when we're picking the vehicle. I think that's where a lot of us get stuck. I've always wanted to help people. I've always wanted to add value. I've always, for as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to help somebody shift their awareness. If I can say one thing in this episode that helps someone look at the world or themselves differently, that's a win. But the vehicle is podcasting. The vehicle is speaking. The vehicle is coaching.
Yeah.
The purpose is to add value, to be the type of person I needed at my lowest point. So I would have a conversation around that. It's not what do you want to do, it's how do you want to do it that doesn't seem realistic to you. Because I think that's where a lot of us get stuck. Everybody wants to add value to a certain type of person, in a certain type of way to help them get a certain result. This podcast is about inspiring people through stories.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the vehicle became the podcast. So somewhere deep in you, you already wanted to inspire people through stories, probably because you were inspired through stories or you had a story that inspired others.
Yeah.
This became the vehicle.
Yeah.
So I think one, you got to test out a bunch of stuff. And then two, when you do test out a bunch of stuff, you'll probably figure out what the most aligned thing that you did felt like. And it might seem like a more reasonable, realistic way to deliver your message to the world. That's probably where I would start. And then a piece of advice I always try to give, because this is something I needed very, very much at the beginning. You're most likely already really good at either success or relationships. The opportunity for growth for you is in the bucket that you're not good at. I think we fall into the trap of saying, I'm really good at relationships. I'm going to go get better at relationships. I'm not saying don't do that. But I am saying that maybe your growth should be focused towards external results right now if you're already really good at the internal self-love, self-worth. And then on the opposite end, if you're super, super achieving, but you're not good at relationships and you don't understand yourself at all, maybe that internal work is where you should start. So that's a piece of kind of blanket statement advice that I think can land with someone kind of wherever they are.
Yeah. Well, I've been inspired, that's for sure. You've given me
that's a win.
Given me a layout of what I need to do. Thank you. This is awesome. So what are the future goals for the next level for your podcast?
This one is always scary because the ultimate goal is to have the most positively impactful self-improvement company on the planet. So that is what we are playing for. That's why we do an episode every day. That's why things are. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
That's good. That's good.
That's the ultimate long-term goal. And then just on a personal level, I just want to be a good man. I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good leader. If I lose sight of the importance of my character in order to get to where we're trying to get to, this was all a massive failure.
Yeah.
And that's the holistic. That's what holistic means. I don't want to be successful and arrogant. I don't want to be very in shape but broke, or very successful and lonely. I want all of those things, and I'm willing to work really, really diligently to try to improve each facet of that.
Yeah, and just feel complete, right?
Yes.
Just feel complete. And like you mentioned, and I love it, that it's not this self-growth wasn't just about you. Yes, you're growing, but you're bringing these other people with you. So you're not just succeeding by yourself. You're helping other people succeed, and that's amazing in today's kind of world out there where everybody is just out to get, it's for themselves. It's a tooth for a tooth, an eye for an eye. And, if in order for me to step up, someone else has to come down. It's so refreshing to hear someone like you, Kevin, to
I
just say,
appreciate that.
listen, I want to succeed, but I'm bringing you along with me. And you probably will have the number one podcast all over the world, because the what's coming from you is real. It's not fake. And you want the best, not just for you, but for the people out there. That's amazing.
I appreciate
Um,
that. Thank you.
and I'm so
Thank you for those
glad. And
kind
I'm
words.
Yeah, I know, no. And just talking to you, and honestly, you're a natural at it. You make people feel at ease. Like, I came in here, I was a little late. And this is just my first times coming up, but you just made it like, it's okay, it's all good, you can do this. And that's awesome. So you can sense that from you. You can sense it. You can feel that, okay, I'm talking to a genuinely wonderful, beautiful person inside and out. So
Thank you.
that's so good to see. Honestly, it's beautiful to see in this kind of world we're living in. Again, I want to thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share your story. Honestly, fantastic. I wish you all the best, Kevin. And if
Thank
there's
you.
anything that I can ever do, please let me know, because I think what you are sharing and what your goal is and what you're trying to do in life is fantastic. And more people out there should be doing the same.
I
So,
appreciate that. And
yeah,
likewise, anything I can do for you, I'm always a
yeah,
message away.